We are students of USC. In 2018, we set out to make a documentary focused on Los Angeles. At first, we were interested in the stories of those who came to LA in hopes of gaining something from the city. We met Justin, an aerospace engineer from South Africa who wants to work for SpaceX. Then we met Lance, a chemical engineering student who had dreams of becoming a chef and opening his own food truck in the city. Finally, we met Calvin, a musician who had traveled from the UK to follow his music career and hoped to land a spot on America's Got Talent. But in our pursuit of understanding what people wanted from LA, we realized we had heard this story many times before. We wanted something different. Instead of examining what people are taking from the city, we wanted to capture instances of when people were giving back to Los Angeles. And then we came across a company that was doing just that.
LA Moss is an urban design nonprofit, and we help communities shape their own growth. We work in lower income communities throughout Los Angeles. We use architecture and policy to do projects that are alternative solutions for growth and that take community solutions and promote them at a citywide scale.
Since LA Moss is based in Frogtown, it's kind of it was a natural idea to start here, to learn about how they can be important and how this can be applied to the rest of the city as well.
If you live in LA, there is a chance you may have overlooked the isolated neighborhood of Elysian Valley, better known by its infamous nickname, Frogtown. Frogtown is an urban island bound by the State Route 2, the LA River, and the Interstate 5. The population of the neighborhood is largely Latino. It's generally a low-income community.
Community members is that the neighborhoods used to flood and it used to bring a lot of frogs to the neighborhood, which is kind of where it got its name Frogtown, just because there'd be a lot of like tadpoles and frogs that would come to the community because of all the flooding that would occur.
The origins of the name are rooted in not just the stories about frogs coming from the river out to, into the neighborhood. It's also referring to a gang that has its roots generationally in this community. So that growing up in the neighborhood back in the 60s, Frogtown to us meant a group of kids that terrorized the neighborhood, that would graffiti the place up, that would have occasional wars with local gangs, and people were shot and killed, and people would hang out in the river, and there would be fights, and it doesn't mean to those of us that have been here for a long time the same thing as it does to the communities the community that's evolving today. To those people, it's an appropriated phrase. It's something that, let's make it cool and unique and trendy, and we'll call it Frogtown.
The idea that the identity of the community is changing and that there's displacement are the inferred results of gentrification that everyone is talking about. However, there are a lot of people that are saying that displacement happens at higher rates in lower income communities when there isn't anyone investing in a community. The biggest issue when a middle class population moves into a lower income population is that the people who are most vulnerable don't have any more rights than they did before. And those are renters. Those are small business owners, and those are also renters, like housing renters. And so those two populations are displaced. So you lose all of that narrative and you lose all of that story when you displace people that are in some ways affecting or supporting the culture but don't have any property rights, right?
A handful of new businesses have opened over the last few years. We wanted some perspective, so we reached out to the people behind some of the new businesses to find out why they would open in a community like Frogtown and how they felt about their impact on the community.
We're talking about density in the community and what that represents. If you take a look here at the street itself, you'll see that this entire street is chock full.
We used to ride on the bike path a lot, and there was nothing here. There was nowhere to go, and we thought that it would be a good, pretty easy place for people to sort of get used to riding bikes and not have to go off the bike path. Mixed. Some people were mostly good. I think we opened in a very gradual way, like unlike a lot of businesses that they like put up a bunch of paper on their windows and then all of a sudden there's something new there.
Gentrification has been able to wipe away identities, and I feel like a lot of LA neighborhoods are holding on to what it is, and they're having a lot of lashback to saying like, yes, bring gentrification in, build your businesses here, but support your neighborhood and be a part of the neighborhood. Don't just try and wipe it away. So anything that becomes part of this neighborhood, they are part of Frogtown now, and they know that, and they need to know the history of it, and they want to stay Frogtown. It's not something where it's like, if I'm going to be in a neighborhood and the whole neighborhood's changing, I'm just going to wipe the face off of every building, repaint it, call it something different, and move forward. These neighborhoods are holding a lot of what their core values are. And I think Frogtown is still always going to be Frogtown, and it's going to be separate from Atwater. It's going to be separate from Highland Park. It's going to be separate from Silver Lake and Echo Park. Like Frogtown's its own unique spot, and I think a lot of that has to do with just the geographics of the area. You're surrounded by a lot of natural barriers that separate us, and the culture stays here.
As that trend continues, you're losing the flavor, the culture that was here before, and all you have left are these empty, hollow phrases like Frogtown.
But the good is, hey, there's no more shootings. Last shooting was just almost a year ago, which when I was growing up, there was shootings every day, every weekend, a few times a week. It was certainly dangerous. But now, with everybody coming in, revitalizing it, as Duke said, just putting money into the neighborhood. There's a brewery open now. On this street, I would not dare walk down this street, not even in daylight, 10 years ago. It was that dangerous. But, now, again, it's becoming a lot better, with all the gentrification, all that. So it's, there are your good, there are your pros, your cons, but at the end of the day, this is how I put it. My little brother's not growing up getting shot at like I've been shot at. Simple as that. And I welcome that. Yeah, I welcome that.
Mm-hmm. But this is kind of the center of this huge LA River revitalization effort that's going in.
Build up the riverfront and make it a destination to be, and make it just not a classic cement highway that it used to be. So not much trade happens in the LA River. There's not much there. Unless it's drugs.
Right.
But for the most part, it does bring a lot of attention, and there's a lot of incentive by the city to build and have people be closer to this LA River area. And so it's bringing a lot more attention to this area from artists, from filmmakers, from just young professionals who want to better their community and better themselves and be a part of something different. And it's definitely a growing community.
We're actually coming up on a project right now, which I mentioned earlier, which is The Bend, one of the tallest projects that's been built in Frogtown, and it's full of studios and 3-bedroom apartments.
Yeah, it's actually 3-story, I believe, and there's a story behind that too, where where the original plan had been for it to be 6 stories, and that even the chutzpah of developers, may know no limits, but the city council apparently thought that 6 was too much, so they scaled it back. But still, I think that it's emblematic of what Elysian Valley one day will become. So this is the radio station. And we call it KEVU for Elysian Valley United, so KEVU. It's an informative program. One of the things that I'm pushing for this next year is to put more of a local flavor on it, so we've added a community calendar and hope to have more information on things that are happening around the neighborhood being broadcast on the show, and it's available for everybody online. So, culture doesn't come out of a $5 cup of coffee down the street. It really comes from the people who are here, and the hope is, and we talk about what we as an organization hope to do in future years, is that we find ways to bring people together, whether it's with a radio station or whether it's with a spin class or a library or any of the other things that can be done in this building, that we can bring people together so that they can share those different cultures that they come from, and from that develop a community culture overall that's inclusive, that is welcoming, that is non-judgmental, and that is open.
Because, the people who are native to here, there was nothing here. The only thing here was the liquor store up the street. That was it. And I don't even think they live here in the neighborhood. So that was the only thing 10 years ago. Now, you got hair salons, you got coffee shops.
Music studio across the street, an art studio next door.
Studios. You got a brewery here.
Yeah.
I'm a
cocktail bar, venues opening up all over the place.
Exactly.
And I think it's, as far as the neighborhood's concerned, a lot of these neighborhoods 10, 15 years ago, they lived here and they commuted to, the Pasadena area, to the Burbank area, to downtown, and these were neighborhoods that were relatively low income, and they lived here but worked elsewhere. Now, since the gentrification is happening in these neighborhoods, a lot of these neighborhoods have been slowly changing, but now people are living and building a lot more in these neighborhoods. I live in Atwater Village, which is right next door, but I work here and I work in Highland Park, and I stay on this side of my town. Like, for me, growing up, I would never go to Highland Park, I would never go to Frogtown, I wouldn't go to these neighborhoods because I was told they were dangerous. And shit, when I was 16, I had a fake ID, I went to go buy booze in Highland Park, and I thought I was going to get stabbed just buying at a liquor store, and I was like, 12 years ago. I was like, this is not a cool neighborhood. I called my dad. I'm like, hey, buy me beer. I don't want to buy beer here. Or where's the Frogtown Gourmet Tacos?
That's on Marsh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a family who, they literally, instead of having a taco truck, they have kids now. They have a permit to have, they just do fresh tortillas and a pop-up taco stand in their front yard. So they literally live and sell tacos at their front, and they're awesome.
Yeah.
My name is Javier Munoz. Frogtown's Gourmet Tacos is a pop-up tent that we have in front of our house. We're known for our hand-pressed tortillas and our shrimp tacos. I've lived in the neighborhood for about 25 years, so I've seen a lot of changes that have gone through the neighborhood. A lot of good changes. I mean, some people may see them as threatening or whatever the case may be, but they're actually very good changes. The neighborhood's a lot cleaner, a lot nicer, definitely a better place to raise up a family. And there was a point where I wanted to leave the neighborhood of how unwelcoming it was, but now it's definitely a place where I want to raise up my children and maybe their children's and their children's
5-10 minutes, I'm like, I look for things that are local because I want to be in my neighborhood, I want to work in my neighborhood, I want to support my neighborhood. And I feel like a lot of people in this neighborhood specifically want to do that. They want to give something back to the neighborhood. They want to get to know their neighbors. They want to be at a first name basis, walk down the street, wave and be like, hey, Gary, like whatever your name is. Like, it's good to see people that you recognize and that you're familiar with. I think this location is just going to get better and better. I don't want to see it degrade, but at the same time, I don't want this neighborhood to get pretentious. And I feel like in this part of LA and the culture of this area, I don't think they'll allow it to become that. You know, we're charging $6 for a beer. As soon as we start charging 10, we won't have any guests here. We won't have any regulars.
You gotta stay true to your roots.
Yeah,
Always.
you know, and look at a restaurant next door to us, Salazar. They're in a Hispanic neighborhood doing Hispanic cocktail bar, great Hispanic style foods, and it's like they're true to this neighborhood. And that's one thing that you can kind of build off of is like if the neighborhood resembles what it was and just not necessarily elevate what it used to be, but just bring something a little bit more into it and support the local community as much as possible, I think the neighborhood's not going to change. And it'll get better and better, but Frogtown's going to be Frogtown. And I know that because even when I go to my other job and I'm in Highland Park, it feels different. And I know that. Even less than 3 miles away, it feels like a completely different neighborhood. And this neighborhood, I love. And I don't think it's gonna get worse. I think it's just gonna get better.
The hardest thing about our work and what we do is like all of it's having to deal with a bunch of shit that people did who are dead. A bunch of old white men who aren't here anymore that made things as if it was forever, right? They made like laws for the sidewalk. They made laws for signage. They made laws for storefronts. And they're affecting all these lower income people so they can't have more or they can't get up. And all those guys are dead. And so who cares? They were the ones who designed the city, but they don't live in it. And they're not the people who need the city to work better.
I see it going in one of two ways. And I think the optimal version, I think the version that might be Pollyannish would be that you see a community that can live together, that you see a community that isn't overrun with multi-unit housing with a pour door on the side, that you see a community where people can live a just, fair life. And that's open to all types of people within the community. All types being just that, a more egalitarian society perhaps, but it's one that shows equal and mutual respect. And then it can go another way, and that could be where development brings people into a community that have a higher, bottom line cash ability. People who want the dregs of society, as they might look at us, out of here, so that they can continue to create more aioli shoe stores and craft breweries and and all of the things that one needs in this society in 2018. The important things of life that are more materialistic and show your status in the world. It can go one of two ways, and right now I'm afraid that much of it is leaning toward the latter version. I hope that's not how things turn out. Hopefully there's a happy median there.